It has been said that if you took all of the wealth in the world and everybody started at ground zero, that the same people who are at the top right now would be at the top if they had to start all over again. That's true, and let me prove it to you. Stay tuned. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, and we inspire. Let's get right to it. The example I want to use, Coach Bill Belichick, New England Patriots. See, I have my Tom Brady jersey on, so I'm excited to talk about the Patriots and Bill Belichick. But let's talk specifically about his leadership. What is it that sets him apart? Why is he such a great leader? Let's take a look at what happened. First of all, he was the leader of a dynasty for about 20 years where the Patriots were at the top of the football world virtually year after year after year after year, winning many, many Super Bowls. And then his quarterback. People were saying, is it Brady? Is it Belichick? Which one is the one that's making them, rise to the top all the time? Well, everyone said, well, it's got to be Brady because he went to Tampa, they won the Super Bowl. But let's take a look at Bill Belichick, what he did and what happened. So last year they had, for the Patriots especially, kind of a miserable year. I think they won 7 games, which for most teams is decent, but it's not great. It's kind of average. But for Belichick, not very good at all. So what were the reasons behind? Well, he lost his superstar quarterback, that's for one thing. Another thing is they had COVID, and he lost 9 of his players from COVID. So he's there and he's got, players that aren't top tier, and he still was able to win 7 games with that. So what does he do as a leader? Well, first of all, last year for some reason, apparently all of the big teams went out and spent a lot of money on free agency, and this year they didn't have a lot of money left to spend. But Belichick had money to spend, and he went out and he spent it on free agency. Now in the past, he's not a big fan of building a team that way, but he said, you know what, I need to make some changes. I have to look at a different paradigm to see what I can do. And he went out and he did it, and he got, 7, 8, 9 players on free agency, and they've worked out really well. Now there are other teams that do the same thing. As an example, the Los Angeles Rams went out and spent a lot of money on free agents as well, but the difference is the key to success in any industry, in anything that you're going to pursue, the key is always the chemistry, getting the people to work together as a team. And the Rams are not doing that, and the Patriots are doing that, obviously. So he went out, and when prices were low and there weren't a lot of teams fighting for free agents, he went out and spent money. So he buys low, and sells high. Does that make sense? In the past, the Patriots were known because when they had Brady, they were passing, did a lot of passing, so on and so forth. Well, he changed over. When he was doing that, it's a copycat league. All the other teams started to get different receivers, quick people, so on and so forth. And he said, if everybody else is doing that, I'm going to do something different. There's more than one way to win a football game. And so what he did is he got big people and said, you know what? I'm not going to rely so much on passing. What we're going to do is go back to basic fundamentals and run the ball. And that's what he's doing. So he does what everybody is not doing. Another thing, now when they flip the coin at the beginning of the game, it's always the team that wins always defers. What does that mean? That means they get to choose in the second half whether they want to kick or receive, and people like to receive in the second half. Well, years ago, when somebody won the coin toss, they always elected to receive. Guess who the first person was, the first coach to change that? Yep, Coach Belichick. So now everybody copies what he does. Football is a game that has constant injuries. So what does Belichick do? He gets players that are interchangeable, that can play multiple positions so that he doesn't get stuck, because injuries are going to happen. It's not when, it's not if, it's when. You know you're going to have injuries. How do you overcome that? because you have the foresight to know that it's going to happen, and you say, I'm going to get some interchangeable players. He manages his budget. Each team has a certain amount of money that they can spend. They have a salary cap. So what does he do? He gets rid of players that are very, very high cost to the team and replaces them with lesser players in a group, and he develops them. And so he takes the guys that are the real expensive ones and has them move on, and he replaces them and trains them and develops them and develops the new guys to come in and do the job. He's focused on getting the job done. That's the point. All right? Now, when you have a superstar quarterback, you're very dependent upon that quarterback for your team's success. Take a look at the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers, or when you take a look at these teams, if the quarterback goes down, they're pretty much out of it. But Belichick built his team so that one person isn't over-counted upon. So it's a team effort. He's always challenging his players with what-if questions. What if this happens? What if that happens? So on and so forth. Why? Because during the game, different circumstances are going to come up. And if in practice, and in the thinking that he has going on during the week, he's saying, what if this happens? What if that happens? He always anticipates what's going to happen, so that when the time comes in the game and that particular scenario evolves, they're saying to themselves, I know what to do because I've already done it in practice. One of the things that was our mantra, Bob Anderson was my mentor, my coach, always used to say, don't ask somebody to do something that they haven't already done successfully before. Have them prepared. Don't ask somebody to do something that you yourself haven't done or aren't willing to do again. All right? Now, obviously in football, you can't be apples and apples, but you get my point. He has his team ready to respond. And by constantly saying, what if, what if, what if, he's keeping his team focused on particular situations, a particular strategy, so that they can move forward. And he makes everyone feel as if their small part is essential to the success of the whole. So when you're running a business, everyone from the janitor all the way to the vice presidents, you need to make sure that everyone feels that what they're doing, that their job is essential and that it's critical to the success of the entire unit, that everybody does their job. His mantra is, do your job. Let me give you an example. One of the things in football that's like really, I don't know, prominent, sexy, whatever you want to call it, is when somebody sacks the quarterback. And that's an important thing, to get the quarterback, before he can make the pass, get him in the backfield, so on and so forth. But even more important than that is to make sure that the players don't go around the edge and hit the open field and run with it. So what's more important than getting sacks from Bill's perspective, Belichick's perspective, is that everybody maintain their discipline and stay in their lanes so that they can't go out and get the big gain. And by keeping the gain small, that means they have to do it more often. And the fact they have to do it more often makes it more possible for that team to make mistakes. So the more opportunities you give someone to make a mistake, guess what? The more mistakes they're going to make. So stay in your lane, do your job. Do your job. Don't worry about getting the sack. Yeah, it's great if you push the people forward and you get the sack, that's great. But top priority is, don't worry about being sexy and getting the big sack and doing the dance and so on and so forth. Be much more concerned with keeping the offense in its place so that they don't make the big gain. And finally, this past week or so, the Patriots were playing Buffalo. And they were playing Buffalo in Buffalo. Weather conditions were, the wind was 30 miles an hour with gusts up to 50 miles an hour. So he's got a rookie quarterback who's done unbelievably well. A guy named Mac Jones done unbelievably well this year. He's done his job. The key thing is they haven't asked him to do something that he's not capable of doing. Now, Mac Jones is from the South. He went to Alabama. He hasn't played in weather conditions like they had in Buffalo. So what does Bill Belichick do? Well, he's got his team all set. He's got big guys where the other teams had guys that were not quite as big but were quick. And so there's two ways to win in anything. You can overpower somebody and be big, or you can be quick and you can run faster and go around, like they do. But when you start to get into December where the weather starts to become a factor, that takes away from the speed. The field becomes more slippery, the wind makes it difficult to pass. He was ready. He had his team all set. And so what he said is, we're going to stick to the fundamentals and we're going to run the ball. Now, all of the other teams in the NFL virtually are focused on how can we pass, how can we pass, how can we pass. If you would have said to the coaching staff of the Buffalo Bills that the Patriots are going to pass only 3 times in the entire game, complete 2 of them for 19 yards, you would have felt you had a pretty good shot at winning that game. Well, guess what? They stuck to their fundamentals. They had a good defense. Their offense focused on the fundamentals, on rushing the football, power football. Rely on the fundamentals. So what did Bill Belichick do? Last year his team was, now they're leading their conference. Now, I don't know if they're going to win the Super Bowl or not, but the turnaround that was made from, virtually nothing to becoming top tier. And keep in mind, their record right now, as we're making this video, is 9-4. 2 of those games they could have won. They could be 11-2 right now. But they're 9-4. That's the reality. And they're looking to win game after game after game. And how do they do it? By saying, do your job and relying on fundamentals. And by thinking out of the box. If you want to do something and accomplish it, don't do it exactly the same way everybody else is doing it. Think of a different way. Create a new paradigm where that will make you successful. Does that make sense? Bill Belichick, great leader. And it works in football. It also works in life and in business. And always remember, hey, don't ration the passion, fashion the passion. I'm Eli's dad.